The Legends of Grayskull, the podcast that dives deep into the mythology.
Hello everybody and welcome to Legends of Grayskull, the fan podcast where we discuss the history, the mystery, the magic and mythology of He-Man, She-Ra, Eternia, Etheria, Nordor, Primus, New Adventures, Old Adventures, comics, mini-comics, even some commercials. I'm Matthew Dooch, here again with Shawn Scavarna. Shawn, how we doing tonight?
Doing okay. It was an interesting walk down memory lane to be doing this episode this week.
Yes, we'll get into that in a moment. We want to welcome you all. This is episode 90. 90. Oh, seems like just yesterday we were recording episode 1, then realizing that there were numerous issues with it and having to scrap it, and re-recording our new episode 1 and finally releasing it. But yeah, now here we are.
We've come away
10 away from the big boy of 100.
Yep. 10 away from the big time, which
we're just getting started, ladies and gentlemen. So if you haven't already, slam that like button, smash that subscribe button. That's how you're supposed to do it, right?
I think. I don't know. My kids watch more YouTube than I do nowadays. They could probably do it better than me.
That's what gets all the clicks to the yard.
Yeah, that's true. And actually, since we're talking about the big 100, give a little bit of props, I guess, here. Congratulations to Steve and Jeremy and Matthew Rodriguez. Podcasters of the Universe just crossed that in the last 2 episodes, I want to say, if I remember right. I think they're on 101 now. But they hit 100.
Yeah, they got there.
We have been burning it up for a little bit faster than they have, so we're hitting 100 a little sooner than they might have, because I know they had like 3 weeks off sometimes and all that stuff. But yeah.
Well, and we started as a weekly podcast.
Yeah.
So, and we held that for as long as we possibly could, until life just made it impossible. So that plays a huge difference. But yes, congrats to those guys. Check them out. Episode 100. They say a podcast really hits its stride after the first 100 episodes. So bear with us, guys. The good stuff is yet to come. All right. I got some stuff to open. You know what? Why don't we go live over on the YouTube, and we'll open up some stuff, and we'll come back. How's that sound?
Sounds good. Let's surprise some people.
Yeah, let's see if we get anybody, all right? Hang on, guys. We'll be right back. We're going to head over to YouTube. We've already done this for you that are listening, but hop on over there. Well, that was fun. That was actually
wasn't bad.
Quite a good turnout. We had, Scott and JP and J Mac, some guys we hadn't heard from in a while.
Yeah.
Weird dude on there, named what was that? Just shave it. Yeah, weird.
Oh, that was shave it.
Just shave it. That's it. Yeah, weird guy, but I think he's got good taste in friends. But other than that,
yeah. I question it after this long, but yeah.
But that was fun. I mean, we opened up some cool stuff. Where'd my pillow go?
Yeah. Are you going to use that tonight for your pillow?
Yes, that's
there.
That's
you
my
go.
Pillow here tonight.
He-Man's going to keep you company. Yeah.
But yeah, lots of good interaction. Considering we just threw that on with no notice, it was just people who happened to get the notification and clicked it. That was fun. We're gonna have to do a bit more of that. So thanks, guys, for tuning in. I am not going to edit that into the show. I think that was a nice special time on YouTube Live, and we'll let that be. If you guys want to check it out, go over to YouTube. It'll be there under our videos. I think I titled it "We're Opening Some Stuff" on episode 90, something pretty simple like that. So you'll see it. One thing I just noticed here, because I had this turned towards the camera most of the time, but just a special call out is Man-at-Arms is like giving the shoulder to Skeletor, like right in the crotchal region there.
Yeah.
They even have the little blast effect, like most dangerous man on Eternia. Yeah, like
makes sense.
We knew He-Man had the Thunder Punch fist, but Man-at-Arms has a Thunder Punch shoulder, like.
Well, imagine if 2000 X-Man-at-Arms would have hit him. I mean, my God, that would have been getting hit like with a, I don't know, Mack truck with that shoulder pad he had back in those days. So.
Good times. I love it. All right, so we got all the opening stuff out of the way. We discussed Mondo and San Diego Comic-Con exclusives, and pretty much all the news stuff, I think, is pretty much on that live there. So go check that out, guys. We're going to get into our discussion for tonight for the main show right away here. And it's, like Shawn alluded to, it's a trip down memory lane for him. Which
I'm old.
He is a little older than me. You might know that if you've listened to this show for longer than 5 minutes. I brought it up a time or two. But just looking back, something that the older fans like Shawn bring up a lot is the early toy commercials, which of course I never saw. I can't remember seeing any of the vintage 80s Masters of the Universe toy commercials. Just because by the time I was watching, it was well into reruns or on VHS. Like, back in the day, unless you recorded off TV, once commercials were done running, they were gone.
Yeah.
So that
toys weren't on the shelves anymore then. Yeah.
Right. Like there was no archiving, there was no YouTube, there was nothing like that. So Shawn and I were talking about like what it was like. So I asked him to sit down and kind of just think of some commercials that maybe he remembered from childhood, or or look through YouTube and find some that spoke to him now. But before we get to the ones you necessarily pick, Shawn, we're going to go through those one by one. But I'm just curious, like when you sat down before, and I don't even know what kind of research you did, if any, or if you just pulled what you gave me off the top of your head, but like what were the standouts to you in your memory before you actively started pursuing this thread?
To be honest, I the only commercial that I could really go to and say, okay, this commercial I remember is the one that I think most fans probably my age always go to, which is it's the Castle Grayskull playset, and then there's Dad and the two kids checking out the playset, kind of, and they're playing, and the dad's kind of in the mix, and that to me was always like quintessential He-Man. That was quintessential Mattel Masters of the Universe. Everything else, it has been. The last time I remember watching any of those commercials was probably 1988.
Yeah.
So in my head, I don't remember the commercials that well of my childhood. I remember more the cartoons and the theme songs and stuff.
Right.
So going back through it, I'm like, there were some where I'm like, I remember this, and the hardest part too was I don't remember if I already had the figure or if that was making me want the figure,
right?
Because I was trying to get to the toy store very often, and my mom always knew when there was a new wave, she tried to get me to the toy store and I'd at least get my pick of something. So I was more proactive on Masters than any other toy line growing up.
So now you've told the story on the podcast quite a few times. I think we all know it. you're in the store, you see the He-Man, you know, you have to convince your mom because he's got the axe and the sword and the, you know, the violence level and all that.
Yep.
Was that prior to commercials? Obviously, it was prior to the cartoon because you were right in the beginning, basically.
Yeah.
But had you seen any commercials that you can recall, or was this literally like walking down the toy aisle, you're looking for Gumby or a hula hoop or that wheel with the stick that you guys played with back then, and all of a sudden you're like, what's this?
Pet Rock, Yo-Yo, Slinky.
Right. And then all of a sudden you're like, what's an action figure?
See, I had before I found out about Masters, like Mego had the little pocket heroes that they had out. So they were like Star Wars size versions of Spider-Man, Hulk, Superman, Batman, and everybody. And then also, I don't know if it was at the same time or not, but my mom was completely cool with buying me Star Wars because she loved Star Wars. Right. So if she found the toys, they were coming home, basically. But I don't remember if I saw the commercial before the toy. I always, when I look back on it, I feel like what sold me was the presentation right there on the peg.
Right.
And I was just like, I was taken away how big the figure looked. He looked like he could bench press a couple of houses, and he had the shield and all that stuff. And like as a kid, I was drawn to the adventure characters, the heroic characters like that. And if they had a sword, 9 out of 10 times I was completely sold just because they had a sword. How cool is that? You know? And so I think, if I remember right, the commercials probably hit after I got that first He-Man, and then that probably just fueled the fire. Because the other thing about watching this stuff that surprised me, I'll bring it up later, but there is something quaint about those commercials for me that it's almost a multiverse of its own for me now when I look back at these things.
Let's go ahead. Let's watch one then. We'll go ahead. We'll start with the quintessential one, as you said. The kids, the dad, the Grayskull. Let's go over to our viewing room for that.
All right.
He-Man. Who's the big guy with the muscles?
He's He-Man, the most powerful man in the universe. Skeletor is his enemy.
He-Man. If He-Man, Skeletor, and Castle Grayskull, you have to put the castle together. You're doomed, He-Man.
Oh yeah? Watch this action, Dad. Now I have the power.
He-Man and Skeletor each sold separately. Castle Grayskull also sold separately from the Masters of the Universe collection from Mattel.
So, obviously, actually, when we were researching this episode, was the first time that I had.
Okay, there we go.
The first time that I had seen this one.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
That I remember, at least. But one of the things I love, and it's just 80s commercials in general, where they always had to have the stipulations. Castle Grayskull does not come assembled, you know.
Yeah.
Or they'd say like
figures sold separately.
Well, that and like some like figures move with your imagination. I know they didn't do it there, but like they would, or like if it showed like a figure like shooting, it'd be like figures do not actually shoot. Like they were so worried about like getting sued or something, where they're like, no, we have to like make sure that these kids realize that these figures are not moving on their own, like that. And so you always had like the kids or the dad or the kid and his sister or the kid and his, you know what I mean? Like you always, it wasn't just showing off the toys or the product. It was, here's how you play with it. Like, here's He-Man, the kids playing He-Man, and Grayskull, and Skeletor trying to take control. And, of course, Dad's Skeletor, right? Because parents are our adversary, you know.
Exactly.
And we showcase the power punch, because it does actually do that. We don't have to have the disclaimer there. But, yeah, there's just so quaint about it, and how they're, like, I mean, that was what, less than a minute, but there was just so much info packed into there.
Exactly.
And everything.
It watching that one again just the other night, it made me want to like come downstairs and start messing with my classics figures. You know, like there's something just you have the music and you have He-Man, and I don't know. It gets for me at least as a kid, it got me into like everybody else had a jingle, like later on, you know, like Thundercats had their theme song. Transformers, More Than Meets the Eye, G.I. Joe, Real American Hero. This one was just a timpani drum and maybe a couple of horns backing it up and hey man, you know, it made you feel kind of like a primal thing about this line that you weren't getting from other sources. And it did give you that kind of, you know, it almost, I don't want to say Lord of the Flies, but it had that kind of like primalness of, you know, a kid back and then especially, you know, they want to go out and run around in the dirt. They want to go and, you know, do some crazy stuff outside. And it's like, this is the toy line that you could just go nuts with in that way. And it almost gives you that license, you know, and I don't know. I just, that one in particular always just rekindles. If I'm bored of He-Man or if I'm like, I need a break, if you play that for me, it'll rekindle it the same way every time I watch Prince Adam turn into He-Man on Filmation or whatever. It just, there's something within my DNA that if I hear that song and I see the play set and that kid with the He-Man, it's like, yeah, it's like I got to see a little bit of my childhood through that kid playing with it right there, I guess.
Fair enough. See, and that's the part that I missed out on coming in later. You know, it's like it's interesting to watch these, and obviously I know the He-Man now, but I remember the first time I did check out some of the commercials was like, that's a little weird. Like, why didn't they just use the Filmation, you know, He-Man thing?
Well,
so
you getting into the line. You started watching because you're 85.
I was born in 85. Like I always remember watching He-Man, Filmation He-Man,
and you always had He-Man and She-Ra. You've said that before. It's always been that. So for you, that was always locked in.
As long as I can remember, I had a bunch of episodes recorded on VHS. But I had 3 actual Magic Window clamshell He-Man tapes. And that was The Greatest Adventures of All, the one with like father, like daughter on it. I can't remember what the backup episode to that one was. And then The Secret of the Sword. Like, those were my official He-Man tapes that I had. So it was, and I don't remember getting any of those. It's just they were always there. Whereas all this stuff, this commercial stuff, was done by the time I can remember watching anything. So,
see, this is it's interesting because we've done the LP record, which came out before Filmation for me. It was probably a year before I remember Filmation or within 6 months, I want to say, because it feels like anything prior to Filmation felt like an eternity in the way I look back at it. But it was probably only like about a year, and then boom, Filmation hit, and it blew the roof off the joint. And I get that. But when you look at the commercials in particular, there's a branding to that it never ever crossed over to Filmation. Filmation just did their thing and it worked for millions of children. But then it's like, you know, people like Rob Bass, Nate Barch, and me, we're the guys who are looking at this and kind of looking at it like, well, that was how they started the line. And the barbarian thing and this post-apocalyptic world and then it's like, oh, but there's Filmation now and everybody wants that and they're not focusing on this. And that's why I said it's like a multiverse, because their branding never gave up on that. Their branding never ever veered into Filmation. They kept it with that timpani drum for quite a long time. It was like probably when the 87 movie hit, and they started veering, because then I know with Extendar, and Snout Spout, I think it was, and a few others. There is that, I have the power. And instead, when they do that in the commercials, but all the way up for like 5 years, He-Man, He-Man, and the timpani drum and that feeling of the primalness that the line started out being.
No, I agree. Like I said, now I understand why they didn't, but like to me as,
Yeah.
I wouldn't say young, but teen, young adult, early internet, and people are posting up these commercials. In my mind, again, like I'm just like everything was always there. Like I didn't stop to think about these kind of like, no, there was, because especially the way get into the 90s and stuff where everything was very much hand in hand, like. The Batman toy line hit the shelf because the Batman movie's coming out, or the Spider-Man toy line's on the shelf because the animated series is premiering on Fox. Like, you lost stuff. Like, honestly, even getting into, like, Transformers, Thundercats, G.I. Joe, like, that era right after He-Man, like, those were much closer, hand in hand with creating a show, comic, toy line.
Yeah.
He-Man was kind of the test run at it, where they were creating some of this stuff before other stuff. So, that's why kind of growing up, my mind never thought about it there even being a time where it's like He-Man came out, Filmation was there. Like, of course it was. That's the cornerstone.
It's funny that this is the episode where I get to kind of share this, and I was not expecting that, because it's like, for how long I've always been, I want the savagery and the beast, the barbarian, and all, and you've always been the Filmation guy. I'm like, but this is why I've always been on that kick. It started me here.
So where are we going next?
Out of the ones that I told you about,
right. What are we watching?
I can't remember which one. Let me see here.
We got Cyclone. We've got Manny Faces, Point Dread.
Do Manny Faces next, I guess. Let's do that, and then Point Dread after that.
Who are you?
I'm Manny Faces with the power to change from man to robot to monster!
Oh, no!
He-Man!
He-Man sold separately.
Hello, friend! Hi!
He-Man, he's your friend?
Friend and ally. He's just kind of weird sometimes.
In special box packages, Manny Faces comes with 5 extra weapons. He-Man and Manny Faces each sold separately, plus the Masters of the Universe collection from Mattel.
I like how Manny Faces' whole commercial is just like, no, trust me, he's a good guy.
That one, I want to say that one I might have probably seen the commercial before I got the figure, because he was a big deal for me in the line at that time, and he's never ever become one that I've never liked. I've always liked Manny Faces, but like that commercial is pure 80s. I love that the dad's on the stationary bike trying to get his pedaling in, and then all of a sudden his kids come in and just wreck his momentum by throwing action figures in his face. I mean, that's how it is at my house all the time, trying to do work, and my son will come in, here's Sonic doing this and all this stuff or whatever. Here's Staple Marshmallow Man. But yeah, I just, that one felt like me as a kid again, with the whole, like, you get this new figure and it's in this line that you are head over heels for. So it's exciting to show off the new figure, and the fact that you could spin his head in these 3 different versions. Like, what kid wouldn't want to interrupt their parents just to show that off? And the parents are going to be like, okay, that's great, I got to go and do this now, But it's through the child's eyes.
Right.
Of when we get a new toy, we're so happy and proud of this new toy that we got to show it off. And I like that, like you said, it takes the whole the whole commercial, the whole 30 seconds, that he's a good guy, but he's really weird. I like that at the end too. He's a little weird sometimes, or whatever the kid says.
Right.
And it's like, that's great. It's selling you on the fact that it doesn't always have to be a handsome, heroic looking figure that you're using to be a good guy. You can be a monster, a robot, or the human, and this is what we're adding to the line. It's adding some difference and some diversity to it, and so it's like, yeah, that was a real cool selling point for me at that age.
And if you hurry, you can get extra weapons with him while supplies last.
And I don't think I ever got that version. I think the only one I ever had was the blaster.
Yep. Do you think they thought that Manny faces wouldn't sell well, and that's why they did that promotion? Like that, they never did that with anybody else.
I don't know, because I only found out about that in like years later after like He-Man.org hit. I had no idea that this was. I knew about Wonder Bread He-Man as a kid more than I remember that whole thing with the weapons, but it's different. I mean, it's like it wouldn't have made me neat. It's like now as a collector, there's a whole different mentality, but as a kid, it would have been, I just want the figure. It doesn't matter to me if he's got these 5 extra weapons that come with him. I just want the figure, because that in and of itself with the twisting head thing would have been.
But if you were at the store and noticed that one pack has a gun and the other has 6 weapons, you're going to grab the one with the extra weapons.
Probably, but I'll tell you what, my mom would have probably been the one to do it, because she would have looked at it from the value of, I'm paying this amount of money. She's like, well, get the one with all the weapons with it then. And then that would have been like me looking at her going, you didn't want me to even buy He-Man when we started this, and now you're letting me get all the weapons. This is crazy.
No, I agree, but it's interesting that they called it out in the commercial. Like, I always obviously I knew about the Manny weapons variant, but I always just thought it was just kind of like a throw-in thing. But the fact that they call it out in the commercial shows, like, no, this was a little bit more of a concentrated effort for whatever reason. And it's interesting because at that time he shared very few parts with anybody, so like he was already a higher cost figure, and then you throw, granted, they're just recast of the Grayskull weapons, but I don't know, just interesting that they felt the need to call that out, like, hey, if you're not sold on this weird guy, like, he's got some extra swords. So
the thing about at least that era for me as a kid and collecting toys in general, it always felt like I would watch the afternoon cartoons. These commercials would hit for any toy line, and within a couple of days, my mom would always take me to Lionel Kitty City down the street or to Toys R Us. And it would almost be, I'm watching a checklist of all the things I'm hoping to find at the store. And there was more of a hand-in-hand feeling back then versus the way that life works today. I mean, granted, we can go online and hit Amazon or, Big Bad Toy Store or whatever. But back then, it was like you'd walk in, and it would be like Willy Wonka's Chocolate Factory when you walk in there, and there's all these new things to just take in and absorb before you can even get your bearings and know what you want to pick out that day. And so in that way, it's like, them doing it that way makes sense, because that at least let the kids know, hey, by the way, there's this version out there too. If you want to find that, tell your mom, and so like, again, this is like the beginning too of how the commercials started doing a little something extra with these figures to make me get excited for what else would be around the next turn that they would do for the next wave or whatever.
All right, let's take a look at the Point Dread commercial.
Yeah.
Introducing Point Dread and the Talon Fighter. Comes with adventure book and story record with sound effects. Action figures sold separately.
Let's hear He-Man and Skeletor on a Point Dread story.
I, Skeletor, will finally defeat He-Man!
I'll use the Talon Fighter to stop Skeletor!
In a flash, He-Man's hurled through space and time.
Surrender to the power of Point Dread's Talon Fighter!
You win, He-Man, but I'll be back!
Point Dread and the Talon Fighter with record and storybook. You have to put it together. Action figures sold separately from Mattel.
Boom. You have to put it together.
Yeah, I was just going to say, there you go, Matt. It's right there.
I told you.
Yeah,
just
you
so
did.
You know,
I know, I remember.
You have to put it together. Comes with the record book. They mentioned that twice, too. Comes with the record book.
Yeah.
In case you don't think you're getting enough value for your money, look at all this stuff we packed in there.
that playset was it was the first playset that I can remember other than Grayskull where I was literally like I was buzzing with excitement for it. And the reason why, and this you'll appreciate being the story guy, was holy crap, they're putting in a record and a book in this thing.
Oh yeah.
So now I don't just have a toy, I now have more than this, and I can actually see, because the beauty of it was, hey, here's the deal about Point Dread, and here's the deal about the Talon Fighter. So it's just like the mini comics, but it was like, this is the movie now. You know, it's on a bigger scale. There's a record to listen to. You have a bigger storybook. And it was Alfredo Alcala. So on top of that, that was just like, you know, yes, please, constantly for me in that era of Masters. And still, honestly. So... Was
it Alcala or was it Texera?
No, that was Alcala. That was like right in... I think that might be... I don't know anything about this, but it wouldn't surprise me if that's why they got Texera to do the mini comics after that point, because he was on there doing the entire storybook.
Gotcha.
For that part.
No, the toy itself, you get a vehicle, a playset, and a book and a record. Like, talk about value for your money.
And the other cool thing was you put it on top of Castle Grayskull, and you're like, it felt like a deep track. It felt like, you know, like when you get certain things, you're thinking this is all that it is. Then all of a sudden, this is the playset where it's like, but you could take it, you know, like take it in half and put the top half to let that be now on top of Grayskull, and you can land the Talon Fighter right there. When I was a kid, boom, that was just magical to go like, they did it to make it work within this. That's so cool.
No, exactly. You don't see a lot of that ingenuity anymore, and it's...
No.
And, you know, we're talking about how quick these commercials are, you know. That was like 30 seconds, and you got the whole story. You got the kids, you got the Talon Fighter, you got the He-Man Skeletor. You know how to play with it. You know everything it comes with. Here we go. Like,
exactly.
Boom. You are off. So, yeah, these things did their job. They got in, they got out. So
exactly. Yeah, because that was like my must-have gift for that birthday. I think it was when I would turn 5.
Yeah.
And the thing that killed me was when I got home that night, because I had a party with my friends. When I got home that night, that was one of the things I wanted. And the main thing I got out was the storybook. And I was on the living room floor.
Yeah.
And I just kept going for hours looking at the storybook because of the art. And it was more imagination fuel with the line. Because I got to have new stories to think of how I wanted to play with the figures the next day.
Well, and nothing came with a book like that. But I have the book. It's a legit book. It's not a mini comic. It's not a bigger mini comic. It is full on golden book. Like it is that quality paper, that size. You know, that's just unheard of to just throw in as a pack in. Like, 80s, you were a magical time. All right, let's take a look at my boy. I believe we're up to.
Yeah, Cyclone.
All right, Cyclone. Let's see what you got.
Medieval Flaw! Cyclone, use your ruling powers to investigate. Around and around I go. A whirlwind. Design Cyclone. With fist that flies. You can't stop my whole evil arm when Cyclone spins. Evil never wins.
Cyclone, new from the Masters of the Universe collection. Each toy sold separately from Mattel.
Oh, so good. So good.
So you played the different one.
Okay. I just realized it was missing that part. I didn't check that one before I played it, so
it's okay. I'll talk about it after we're done talking about the Cyclone part.
So, but yeah, you got now that one I like because it made my thumb hurt from remembering flipping that that switch constantly. But you had the fog, so we need him to spin and dissipate the fog, and then there's all the evil warriors there. Too Bad, Stinkor, Whiplash, like everybody. This is the first one, really. I mean, I think that the first commercial we watched had Beastman in it as well, but this is the first one in our watch where it's like, look at all of these guys that are on the shelves, you know. And who takes them all down? Not He-Man. Nope. Cyclone. So you better go get your Cyclone, kids.
Yeah. Well, this is one that I wanted to bring up about the multiverse aspect of the way Mattel looked at the line and the way that Filmation was promoting the line with the show and everything. And the thing that I absolutely fell in love with watching the commercials the other night was every time that there's a new figure, they made a point of trying to go out of their way to make that figure look like it is the most valuable ally for either Skeletor or He-Man. And it wasn't goofing around. It wasn't any kind of slapstick or whatever. It was, here is this powerful figure that now you can have paired with He-Man to go into battle. And, if you spin him and your thumb doesn't get numb, you can have him take on an entire army just by walking through them and just, with his hands and all that. And there's also the Fisto Clawful ad, which I was tempted to bring up, but then we stuck it to the 5 commercials. And it's like, that one even, it's like He-Man shows up and it's almost like, hey, here's a problem, but wait. And then it's like he steps aside and then all of a sudden, here comes the latest figure, and they absolutely nail, no matter how ridiculous or crazy the figure might have been, they sell you on, but this is a great figure. It's not meant for jokes. It's not meant for this or that. This is a powerful character to add to your collection.
Right. And they keep using that language too. Cyclone is available from the Masters of the Universe collection. I never heard of it referred to until we started watching these commercials like this. I'm like, that's Pokemon would do it the best years later with the Gotta Catch 'Em All, but that really feels like what they're trying to do. Like, oh no, this is a collection, kids. Like, if you don't have Cyclone, then your collection's not complete, and so you better get Cyclone. So, and that's why a lot of us have all these issues where we have to collect every single variant of every single figure years later. Because we never completed our Masters of the Universe collection.
I mean, heck, Star Wars on the back of their cards, collect all 52, whatever the number was. Yeah, and it's like you see all of them on the back of the card, and you're like, oh my God, my mom's going to kill me. And I mean,
but I got to.
Like well, exactly.
The card back told me to.
It says to. It's in writing.
Right.
It's official. It's right there. And in the case of this, the one thing that Masters did that was smart was they didn't do that on the card back. They made the most essential characters of the newest wave there, because then it was I never saw him, I need this or I need that. Versus if they showed every single figure of the line, the card back would have just ended up being this big,
right?
Because it would have been like a Christmas list of all these figures.
when you were in store, you could pick up that nice little poster they got on the shelf there, hang it up in your room, and it's got every figure released with nice little check boxes next to it.
Exactly. And for
posters.
some reason, Prince Adam is there too, even though He-Man's there, and he's there and ain't there, and he's there and.
Well, there's that one, but then there's the one on the opposite side where it's literally got each figure by itself with the little white check box.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
All right. Last.
Oh
no.
One quick thing though. The Cyclone one.
Yes, I'm sorry because that's me because after I found the commercial, I started looking for the highest quality I could find, and I never actually played the highest quality one that I found. But
it's okay. It's okay.
Go ahead.
So the other half of the reason I wanted this commercial was the version I saw the other night actually had a teaser trailer for Rock-On and Stondar.
Yep.
And this was the era, like this wave was the era of Masters where it was the most electric for me to be interested in the line. And it felt like every other week there was some new figure that I needed to go to the store to get. And I loved how on the commercials they gave a teaser for yet here's something else we're coming out with. And the way they did it, I mean, they had, about the Comet Warriors are coming and all that stuff that you just have, here they are. And as a kid, that would have just had me with my jaw on the floor looking at my TV on, like 4 o'clock in Baltimore, just like, there's more of them. I need these, because at that point it's a sickness. So,
and the way they did it with just the coming soon for your Masters of the Universe collection.
Yes.
Like,
well,
they could be out now, or next week, or next month.
Exactly.
Or tomorrow, or,
Exactly.
And
Mom!
We gotta go look again. It said they're coming soon. Honey, we've looked every day this week. No, they're coming soon!
Yep.
No, it's a really good teaser. I did see it. I did not pull it on this one. But yeah, it's effective, and it kind of even gives, because it's a full Cyclone commercial, and then it dims out, but then also it's like, but coming soon. You got that comet racing across the screen, and it's almost even like a little secret, like, hey kid, you like Cyclone? Like, come here, I got something else to show. Don't tell anybody. We got something else coming. Like it's that kind of thing where it's like come on,
you're
kid,
in on the secret,
right? This is just between us. Don't tell your friends. But just kidding. Go tell your friends. Make them know this story too. So I mean, just brilliant marketing. I mean, just these tiny little commercials that are just like, I want to go check Walmart right now, knowing that none of these figures are going to be there. Like it said I have to. They're coming soon.
Yeah.
They might be there.
On YouTube.
All right.
Actually, with Origins, you never know. They might be out there.
And last, but certainly not least, I'm just going to play this. This needs no introduction.
The ultimate threat to the universe is here.
I am Hordak, and this is my evil horde. Your evil even scares me, Hordak, my friend. The evil horde has no friends.
The evil horde, new from the Masters of the Universe collection. All figures each sold separately.
Let me out of here!
From Mattel.
I had never seen this commercial until you sent me your list and I looked it up. I am so glad you picked this one. This is just so much fun.
Yes.
And it kind of shows the progression, because obviously the Horde was later in the line. And, so now we're getting... we kind of covered the progression there with the way you picked. So we had that early Castle Grayskull one where it's just the kids and dad playing on their table or whatever.
Yeah.
And Cyclone was starting to get some atmosphere and, some other things. And then this one is very much almost even like they're trying to grow up with the kids, like, because the kids are there, but they're wearing the black gloves now and a little more like in the background. Like Mattel's like, hey guys, don't worry, this is getting more serious now. It's lots of landscape and effects and everything, and of course like the moss covered stones blocking Skeletor's exit. Like it's just a neat progression of the commercials, like how Mattel obviously wants to sell toys but is also trying to stay relevant with the kids who, you were 5 when you got Point Dread. Now you're 7 or 8 when we're bringing out Hordak.
Yep. Yeah. The thing about that era, again, it was the idea of the dynamics of the line and what they were trying to do was really working for me.
Right.
At that point, the fact that you have an evil group that has nothing to do with Skeletor. And Skeletor is actually like, He-Man, we have a problem. And that just for me was like a whole new level of wow. Like it's like I've never seen a toy line where it had that the enemy of my enemy is my friend, the way that they did it with the Horde.
Right.
And it was actually it was a very, very exciting time for me too, because how often, I mean, it happens a lot now in certain toy lines. Like, I mean, G.I. Joe had the Dreadnoughts and stuff, and they later had the Cobra La BS that I hate. But anyway, and they had Serpentor and all that stuff. But this was the first time I ever saw something like this, and it's like game changer. Like, for the line itself, it was like, this is a game changer. They even did that poster where here's Snake Mountain, here's Castle Grayskull, here's the Fright Zone in the middle between, and it just made that dynamic so much more infectious.
And the way they did it in the commercial with, like, all right, here's Hordak, he's the leader, and here's Leech, I stick to things. Here's the antenna, like, every character got their little thing, and no heroic warrior, no, just the evil Horde and Skeletor, and, like, you know, it tells, again, they telling you everything you need to know. Like, hey, even Skeletor by himself is scared of this group. Running away.
Yeah.
Let me
out of here.
The kid even, like, takes him a little ways and, like, turns and looks back and he's like, nope, I'm out of here. And then the stones close. It's just like Mattel. I think that has definitely been my favorite of the journey you've taken me down here. It just it's got the humor. It tells you everything you need to know. They get their spotlight. It's so well done. And
they primed us for that.
Huh?
Exactly. And they primed us for that because they did like they did with Rocket and Stondar, where at the end of one commercial, and I don't remember which one it was off the top of my head, they did have a teaser where they showed here's smoke and here's this backlighting coming out. The Horde is coming, and it's like when you hear that as a kid and you don't know what this is about, and you're thinking, this just doesn't sound good. What's this about? You know, and it's like, talk about piquing your interest. And then when you see here's Hordak, here's Grizzlor, here's Leech, here's Mantana and all that, and you're just like, this is nuts. Like, again, I absolutely love that era for that reason. Like, I love the original version with the mini comics and the Alcala, but this was the next one, and this to me was like the Horde, if I remember right, at least for me, I didn't know about the Horde was like before Secret of the Sword,
right?
So I had the He-Man magazine with the Horde on the cover showing me what the Horde was about, and then the mini comics and the commercial. So I'm going into it with this version of it, and then when I saw how Filmation handled it, again, can you see a little why this wouldn't have been like, I mean, Filmation has some magical moments, but it's very like, when you watch it, when you watch Filmation versus how even the commercials were set up with the way it was, there was this like, like this is definitely for a younger audience sometimes on Filmation, but the commercials were pushing it to make you feel like you're about to grow hair on your chest playing with these toys, you know? So there's like a conflicting thing for me every time I think of what I had before Filmation, and then once Filmation hit and everybody got on board. But yeah, I mean, it blew my mind. Like, these commercials really did capture that essence of what I loved about this line as a kid. And yes, it taught you, like you said, it teaches you here's who fights who and all that stuff. But then at the end of the day too, there's this like primalness to that still. Like I said, the timpani drums and everything else. So absolutely, I did not remember these commercials. Now that I remembered them, I honestly, every week I'm going to be rewatching them now and going like, oh man, I need to watch Point Dread. I'm in that mode right now.
And there's a ton
Where's the Horde?
There's a ton of them out there. I reached out to our Facebook group, and I posted even before I got your list, actually, I posted the first one we watched, the Grayskull with the dad. And I just asked people, hey, you guys have any memories of commercials? What's your favorite? You know, is this how you got exposed to MOTU for the first time? You know, general thoughts. So we did have some people commented, and Dan Rice predictably said, the Stinkor commercial was the absolute best one ever made. Aaron Johnson jumped in and said that his very first introduction to the animation of Masters was that quote-unquote lost commercial where it's actually the filmation animation, but much more detailed and much more in the vein of the early mini-comics, Dark Skies, post-apocalyptic world. Do you remember seeing that one as a kid, or no? Yeah, that thing must have ran so limited because very few people remember it, and it took forever to recover the footage of it.
That one was one that I found probably by being in the Facebook groups over the last 5-6 years, and it really was like I watched that and I'm like, Filmation did that. That was the one I wanted. This is the true blue He-Man that I always wanted to see. And he had the battle axe in that. He didn't even have the power sword. Right. If I remember right.
Right, because it was still the key to Castle Grayskull story.
Exactly.
But what's interesting is it's John Irwin as He-Man. It's Alan Oppenheimer as Man-at-Arms. It's Linda Gary as Teela. They're there with the voices, but the animation is light years apart. It's a really weird kind of thing, and they did not know they were doing a cartoon series when they made that commercial. They were contracted for the commercial, they made the commercial, and then later Mattel's like, hey, you want to do a series? So, which I think is actually helped that animation, because I think if they knew they were going to do a series, they would not have gone that detailed, because they thought they were just doing a one-off, and obviously, for animation, the simpler the better, especially when you're trying to keep it in-house. But check that out, guys, if you haven't. Aaron Johnson also said, this one blew my mind, though. Didn't know the Horde was coming, and then saw this, which is the Evil Horde commercial that we played a minute ago. So he was right there with you. He didn't know anything about him, and then that commercial hits and blew his mind.
Game changer. Yeah.
Manny Gonzalez says he liked the commercials, but he had the toys before he saw the tune, thanks to his grandpa bringing him most of the toy line in '83. Ryan LeMay says, my cousin and I would say the what after saying slime pit because of this commercial. And that's, of course, the Evil Horde slime pit commercial.
That was actually one of the ones I was going to pick, but it was when you said top 5, I gave you a list. You're like, narrow it down to 5. I'm like, oh crap! So that one didn't make the cut, unfortunately. Right. Sorry, Ryan, but yeah, I still enjoy that one as well.
He also goes on to say he doesn't really remember his introduction to the line, but he was a fan as far back as he can remember. He had a few figures, but then one day in '84, '85, his aunt sent him a box of his cousin's old toys. It had Grayskull, a bunch of figures, and Battle Cat. He's never looked back. It was a good day.
Oh, yeah. That would have been an amazing day.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. I have a very similar story where a friend of my mom's gave me a Snake Mountain, Fright Zone, and a ton of figures. So
nice.
Jesse Arnold says, one day He-Man was just part of my life. I don't remember how it started. I agree. Scott Baker says, I don't remember exactly how I got into it, but I would stay with my grandpa every weekend as a child, and every Saturday he would take me to Kmart and let me pick out a figure. Most of the time that was some sort of He-Man toy. What I do remember vividly is getting my Grayskull, which also involved my grandpa. It was almost my birthday, and I was walking around the mall with my mom. And as we're walking, I see a man walking towards us carrying Grayskull. It took me a second, but I finally realized that man was my grandpa, and that's when little me lost it in the middle of Baybrook Mall. Probably one of my best memories from childhood. That sounds awesome. I would love it if your grandpa or any grandpa walked up to me in the mall and gave me a Grayskull. So.
Yeah, jeez.
Jason Torrance jumps in. I don't remember how exactly I got into Masters, but it might have been that commercial. I definitely had the toys before the show started. I can actually remember thinking how different the show was to the mini comics. Even back then, I was an annoying fan.
Well,
his words, not mine. I did not embellish on that one at all.
I'm not saying he's an annoying fan. No, but like that was the main thing about this for all these years. It's like they started with one branding, and then Filmation took it in a different direction. Yes, it became a phenomenon for that reason. And I'm not saying that their contribution is not valid. It's just there is that feeling of, for those of us that were there when the show wasn't running, we had the storybooks and those records, and and it just the whole branding was a whole different thing. And it's like, for me, looking back on it, it's like the first line to actually make that work all across the board was probably G.I. Joe,
right?
Because like they had the jingle from the get-go. They didn't have they had the theme song,
right? That's what
when they
saying.
were going to release the toy line. That was on the commercial, and that became the theme song on the cartoon. And it's like He-Man, it was kind of this potluck dinner of getting the kids to the table, but once they were at the table, they were all about it, and it's almost like there is this divergent thing of what could have been what we have, and so that I'm always going to be that guy about it. I'm going to be that, well, what about that side? So it's nice to know there's other people that appreciate it too. So
fair enough. Well, I gotta say, I really enjoyed this trip down your memory lane. I know I would have been a sucker for these commercials if I had seen them growing up. It's another thing that just kind of lost, right? These commercials that nowadays it's all, either animation or whatever, and it's like, it's just funny looking back. They were so worried about really showing the toys as being played with. Now it's like the exact opposite. Like, no, we can't. We got to show that this toy can do everything on its own. Like, we don't want people to think you have to, touch it. Just a really different time. But yeah, that was fun. I do find it interesting that you only pulled commercials with the Tiffany drum, and you didn't pull any of the Masters rap commercials.
I hated that one. I remember that, and I'm like, there is no way a kid in a leather jacket gives a crap about He-Man anymore. I'm sorry. I mean, it's like when I saw that commercial, even as a kid, I'm like, you don't take your toys into middle school and play like that. No, it's like, you do this in your room, or you do it in your yard, or at the playground.
Other guys don't.
Some guys don't. Yeah, I hated that. And every time that Val would reference it on Roast Google, I just have to shake my head because, I wish I could have also gotten one with the "I Have the Power" line in the song, though, because I was watching those. I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot they did that near the end.
Yeah, I got to check that out because I haven't. That doesn't spring to mind. I've heard a couple of the Masters rap commercials, and I've never cared for it either. Honestly, if I gotta choose, I'm going that He-Man.
Oh yeah.
Stinkor, whoever.
I mean,
it works for everybody.
They even with the '87 movie, they had the one that it was Blade, Sarad, and Gwildor. Mm-hmm. And it's like you want to talk about bottom of the barrel advertising, trying your best to make, polish a turd, basically, because out of all of the figures in the line, like Blade, Sarad, fine, but Gwildor being the only representation for the heroes just was not helping.
That's how good he is.
I guess, I don't know, but watching that one, it's like there's a part of me that smiled watching that one, going like, oh yeah, I remember that. And then like you only see He-Man at the very end, where it's that shot of him in front of Grayskull from the movie. Oh, I have the power, and it's like, thank you, Dolph Lundgren, for once again making me go, John Irwin did it better. But yeah, they were trying to do the best they could with a movie that was definitely out of their hands. I get it. So yeah. But
all right, I think that's the episode. Shawn, take us into the weekend.
Oh, so if you like this, hit that like button, subscribe, ring the bell, hit the bell, whatever you want to do, get the notifications. Hey, guess what? We're going live every now and then, so you might want to actually do the notifications, because then you can be on it, just like Pride of Grayskull, J-Mac, and that Jesse Arnold guy that we know. Join our Facebook group, Legends of Grayskull Podcast on Facebook. We post news as often as we can find it, and we do the questions and comments, concerns for each episode, so you can join in and get your question or comment answered. Most episodes. But yeah, the chances are there, and I'm getting very distracted by Matt showing off his purchase again from Legion Shop. And until next time.
Until next time, guys. If you want to see these more up close and personal, go check out that live.
Oh, come on. Oh, bear. Oh.